Hello and welcome to another chess game review featuring the Jabava London opening. So let's take a look here. We have a game from 2024 back in June, it looks like. Is that correct? June 11th, so not too long ago, a few weeks ago. And with white is Alexander Bortnyk. 3174 rating here versus MVL Maxime Vachier-Lagrave 3068, who is has been one of the best players in the world for quite a while. So now let's get to the action here. So now when I put on the analysis, for some reason it will erase the names of the players. So we'll do a game review. White ends up winning. I give the answer away here, but let's see how he did it because it was pretty interesting. So when I turn on the analysis, see it erased their names for some reason. It looks like this is a bullet chess game. So mistakes are made when you're moving this fast, but these are the best players in the world. They only get a minute on the clock, and we have 92.6% accuracy rating for white versus 77.5 by MVL with the black pieces. And there was a brilliant and a great move by white. Two great moves, and only one inaccuracy. And unfortunately for black, two inaccuracies, one mistake, and a blunder. So let's see what happened here. If we turn on the analysis, the game begins with d4 and knight to f6, followed up by knight to c3, which is the important move, or one of the important moves in the Jabava London. You end up putting the knight on c3, which does block this c-pawn, but it gives this knight a little more activity than if you would place the knight on d2, which is done in some regular London systems. But the Jabava has this knight on c3. So we have a continuation of d4, keeping things equal in the center here. And now bishop to f4, the Jabava London. Now, if you're searching this game on chess.com, you have to look up Queen's Pawn Opening Shigorin variation, which is the name that they give it in the database, the game's database. But here, lately, this opening is named after, I believe, Badur Jabava, and so they call it the Jabava London. I believe he played this opening, regularly, and now it's named after him. So the game continues with c6. Now this is, this can be an important move. It's a little bit more passive. A lot of times c5 will be played to immediately attack this pawn. But what this move does, other than fortify the d pawn, is prevent the knight from jumping to b5. Because a lot of times in the Jabava London, because this knight is on c3 instead of d2, as in the normal London, a lot of times this knight will want to jump up here to c7, or try to jump to b5, and then try to jump to c7 to fork the king and the rook. So when it does make it to b5, that could force black to move his knight to a6 to prevent the fork, and it kind of ties up black's queen side. So the c6 move helps prevent that. Now we have e3, another common move. The bishop is brought outside the pawn chain, and this e3 pawn helps reinforce the d4 pawn. So here we go. Bishop to f5. Now, here, white has some options. f3 could be played with a follow-up of pushing the g-pawn and chasing this bishop. But here, white decides to just develop a piece. With an eye on maybe jumping up here to e5 on this outpost And another theme in the Jabava London where white tries to put control or pressure on these dark squares in the center of the board. E5, D4, C5. Continuing on, E6 is played as the bishop is outside the pawn chain, and now the dark squared bishop is ready to develop. So the knight does jump up to this outpost on E5, but it looks like the computer prefers bishop up to D3 attacking here. But the game takes a little different course. We have knight developing and attacking this strong knight on E5. So instead of dealing with that, we have this G4 pawn push. So apparently the computer says this is best, and the game is even at this point. So let's see what happens. The bishop is moved to E4, a blunder by MVL. Now, it's crazy. They must have some time being added to the clock as they had a 1-minute game and they only have 55 seconds, so only 5 seconds off the clock versus 3. So they must be moving really fast. And it's amazing how the difference between moving this bishop to E4 versus G6 makes all the difference, from plus 1.8 to a dead even game if this bishop would have just retreated back. But MVL was probably worried about the H4 pawn push threatening to trap the bishop. But let's see what happens here. We have a great move, F3, chasing this bishop anyway. So now the bishop retreats here and ends up on G6 anyway. So, and funny thing, the computer actually says that queen to B6 would have been a better move, targeting this pawn here. So, but, white would still be ahead by almost +2 anyway. The game continues with H4, another great move threatening to trap this bishop. So H5 is played to give an escape hatch for the bishop, and now white gives up his advanced knight, which could have been captured anyway, and he gives it up but captures the bishop pair, or takes the bishop pair away from black in the process, and leaves black with these doubled weakened pawns on the king side, this backward pawn in the center. So how does the game continue? Well, now the knight is chased back, back to its originating square here, back on the back rank. Not very good. So it's looking bad for MVL, and he's a little bit behind on the clock. So here we go. The bishop develops, targeting the unprotected pawn, and so the king moves forward here, and apparently the computer prefers just bishop to b4, pinning this knight, maybe letting this pawn go. Let's see, if that bishop to b4 move is played, though, the computer recommends queen to d3, attacking the other pawn over here. So in the game, the the king just comes forward here to protect these pawns. But white just adds pressure here, centralizing his queen, attacking this pawn, and now we have the pin of the knight to the king. So white continues with a brilliant move, sacrificing this bishop, and, well, temporarily he sacrifices a piece. So let's see how this continues. The king accepts the sacrifice, but this allows the queen to capture a pawn with check. So white has two pawns for his piece, but the knight is forced to block here, and that is the best move. What are the other options? Are there any? It looks like no. He could either move his king up to e7, but that's even worse because then the queen can capture the pawn, take the rook, What else is available? Only moving the knights to block. So the best move is played, moving this knight that was on the back rank, but white will regain his lost piece, and now he's ahead. After this capture, ahead by a pawn. All right, the queens are opposing each other. White is in the middle of an attack, so decides not to trade queens, because when you're putting pressure on your opponent's king and you're in the middle of an attack, it's usually better to keep the attacking pieces on the board instead of letting your opponent relieve the pressure by trading them off. So here we go. The king tries to run for safety. We have castling. Now this rook that was doing nothing on A1 is involved, jumping into the center. So the game continues with black trying to knock out one of white's pieces. So now there's less attacking material, but white does have this half-open file, a fairly centralized bishop, and the two rooks connected. So let's see how white finishes black off here. So queen, once again, trying to trade off this attacking queen. White avoids that, and now we have a knight developing move, which is apparently an inaccuracy. Queen to e6 would have been better. Once again, trying to trade the queens off, but white is already ahead here. Even with the best move, white would be ahead by +2. And at that point, if the queen would have gone here to e6, computer recommends finally just trading off queens. But knight to b6 is played, and now we have an attack on the queen. So the rook jumps over to the open or half open file and gains some initiative by attacking the queen, sending the queen running into the corner, which apparently is the best move, but it doesn't look so great having your queen here. Perhaps there is the possibility of jumping here and then maybe moving here to try and put pressure on this king, with the queen aiming down here at c2. All right, continuing on, we have an even further centralization of this bishop, and now the bishop and the rook are piling up, threatening a capture with this rook forking the king and the queen. So danger abounds here for black. Let's see what happens next. The rook slides over, helping defend against this threat. But what does white do? White just moves the rook up, preparing to double rooks and add more pressure. So now we have this pawn pushing forward, helping to protect this pawn here on h5, just in case. So now the rooks are doubled. Now apparently computer prefers e4, which is a better move, with these analysis, or sorry, this the numbers here. Spit it out. The numbers are +3 if white would have played e4, but this is still a good move, doubling your rooks up, keeping the pressure on this pawn. So let's see how the game finishes out here. A inaccuracy is made. Apparently it would have been better to bring the king over here to the center, but let's see why this is a bad move, this rook to f8 move. And what is the time looking like? It looks like 39 seconds on the clock for both players. So we can forgive them their mistakes because they're playing bullet chess. But, these are the best players in the world, so they're going to play, even at a 1-minute time control, way better than average chess players. So finally, this e4 move is played. Maybe trying to open things up even a little more in the center, and get at this king here. So the game continues with, oh, and the computer also says the bishop could have just jumped up here, targeting the rook. So the game continues with a mistake. And now a mate in one is looming. So hopefully you can find this mate in one, take a look at it and see if you can figure it out. But yes, this was probably a blunder made in the quick bullet chess time controls. So best would have been just to move the king back here to e8, opening up this rook a little bit. But knight to c4 was played, perhaps with the intention of, well, attacking the bishop, it looks like. And queen to d7. So hopefully you found that. You have to watch out when there are pieces on the edge of the board that can be overlooked, especially if it's a bishop or a queen, because they can quickly jump into the action on the other side of the board and cause problems. And there you have it. A very interesting bullet chess game by two of the best players in the world. Let's see here. If we pull up the analysis, the game review, I was wondering what level they played at. So unfortunately, Black played at a 77.5% accuracy rating versus 92.6 by his opponent. But my image might be covering this. So down under these numbers here, it says that White played at a 3,300 rating level in this bullet chess game versus his opponent at 2,900. So, as far as opening, 99.3% accuracy by White, and Black played at 82.8% accuracy. So perhaps, maybe Black was either rushing in the bullet chess or was a little bit unfamiliar how to handle this Jabava London system. And then we have 89% accuracy in the middle game for White versus 74.5 for Black. All right, well, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to leave any comments that you would like, whatever you'd like to say, and I'll try and get back to you. I try to answer all my comments. So thank you for watching and have a super chess day.